And we are live. Greetings, Otaku Faithful. Thank you for joining us again this week. Once again, this is Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief.
It is Ugo Strange, the Lag Master.
And this is your boy Ugo Hikari, aka the Nerd Nigga.
And we are finally back after our brief little hiatus to bring you all another live recording of OAW Late Nite right here on Otaku Simple Weekly. Finally back. Man, I missed y'all, man. It's been a crazy 2 weeks. But we're finally back at it. We're finally here to crank out another, live recording, another live stream. And we got a special treat for you all tonight. So we got two different segments that we're actually going to do for this week's OAW Late Night. So first and foremost, what we got lined up for you guys, I was actually planning on saving this for last week, but unfortunately we weren't able to do a live stream last week. I was planning on doing this last week because I actually want to do one of these at the end of every month. But pretty much what we're talking about is roundtable rants. So because I know my viewers huge fans of my rant segments, and I know Ugo and Hikari have yet to throw their hats in the ring. But pretty much so the idea I have for roundtable rants is real simple. It's like each one of us, we go around the table, we ranting about something, whatever it is that's bugging us at this present moment. And then, the rest of us, we can go ahead, we can chime in on it. But pretty much this is what you would consider a mass venting session. So fellas, and I'm going to start off with my man, Ugo Strange, whatever it is that is pestering you cats right now, please feel free, lay it on the table right now. And I do want to say this though. So much as I am trying to now make the channel as age appropriate in terms of language as I possibly can, when it comes to roundtable rants, unleash the Kraken. So for those of you all who are under the age of 18 or 13 or whatever have you, I'm going to go ahead and throw up this disclaimer now. There may be some F-bombs, a couple of, sugar honey iced teas up in here. But by all means, fellas, if it slips, let it rip. So go ahead and kick us off with your rant.
Sugar honey iced tea, that's a good one. Okay, I'm going to say something that I think a lot of us have been thinking, or at least a lot of people in my gaming sphere have been thinking for the last couple of years now. 2K games. What the hell? What the hell, 2K games? And here's why I'm saying this, okay? So I have a PlayStation 3. I have yet to upgrade to a PlayStation 5. I am not buying a PlayStation 5 for just one game. So
you mean the 4?
Yeah, the PlayStation 4. Why am I thinking of 5 now? That's another rant for another day.
Because that Nintendo Switch just came out and it done threw everybody's timetable off.
Gaming systems are becoming obsolete too damn quickly, but that's another rant for another day. But 2K, okay, so I bought WWE 2K14, okay, right around the time it came out. WWE 2K17 came out last year. They're the same game. They're the same. There is no difference. They're the same damn game. The only difference is that it's got a bigger roster. And here's the kicker. Here's the thing that pisses me off. There is stuff missing in 2K17. We had to wait, up until March to actually get a showcase mode as a DLC, when the previous games had the showcase mode readily available. There's the story designer missing in 2K17. Now, this is the PlayStation 3 version of it. But here's my issue, though. If you were going to take stuff out of the PlayStation 3 version and just put out a new version of 2K14, don't release it for the PlayStation 3. Just have it a PS4 exclusive. If you're going to take stuff out. Because the two games are... Okay. 2K17 for the PlayStation 4 is an entirely different game than it is for the PlayStation 3. The only thing that's different... it's like a world of difference in terms of gameplay, presentation, the create a character suite, the create arena suite, the create a title suite. 2 different suites in those games. So it's like 2K managed to sell everybody who has a PlayStation 3 from 2K14 to 17, managed to sell them the same damn game consistently. That's wrong, man. That's wrong. And that pisses me off. Because now it's like I have 2 copies of the same game, and I don't really need 2K17. I'm still playing it because I paid money for it, so damn it, I'm going to play it. But if I want to actually get 2K17, I have to buy a PlayStation 4 to actually play it the way it's supposed to be played. That is bullshit. Rather, if you're going to do it, don't do it at all. Don't put out another 2K game, a 2K wrestling game for the PlayStation 3 if you're going to make both versions different. Don't do it. Just make it a PlayStation 4 exclusive. Just go for it. Don't do it.
So I'm going to go ahead and chime in on this. So Ugo, I get the sense that you're new at this. And this is what I mean. It's not just 2K. Sports video games have been doing this for years, over a decade.
Oh, true. True.
Because the same thing happened with the Madden series with the PS2. Same thing happened with Madden with the PS2, because I think after Madden 08. So I think like 08 and then onward, because I think the last Madden game that came out for PlayStation 2 was either Madden 11 or Madden 12. Like, a lot of people don't know, like, Madden was still coming out on the PS2 up until like 2011, right? Because Madden 2012 would have came out in August of 2011. And so yeah, I want to say like up until Madden 2012, like, it was still coming out on the PS2. But here's the thing though, the game itself had not changed since Madden 07, I believe. Like, I think 07 was the last version on the PS2 that had any type of like innovation, any type of new addition or anything like that. So if you were still buying Madden on the PS2 after 07, so 07 came out in 2006, after 2006, you were pretty much buying the same game, just with an updated roster. That's it.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing, though. You're right. I am new at this because I haven't gotten any of the Once they started in the 2K games, I haven't gotten any of that. So I haven't gotten 2K12, 13. I just got 14, you know. The last wrestling game I got for the PlayStation 2 was 2K. I mean, not 2K, but SmackDown versus Raw 2008, I think. I think that was the last one. Or maybe 2010. Can't remember. But that was the last one. I didn't jump into 2K until 14 because I was like, oh, look at all the stuff they got for it. And that's when I finally got the PlayStation 4. And I really liked the 30 Years of WrestleMania showcase. That was cool. So after that, I wasn't going to buy anymore. I wasn't like, I wasn't interested in getting any more of the 2K games. You know, even when they said, oh, Sting's going to be in 2K15 and they had
I know they almost suckered my ass in on that one.
Well, Sting is nice, but it's like I knew he was going to eventually be a standard in the game. So it's like, let me hold the brakes on there. But it's like now they got AJ Styles up in there. So, you know, I love me some AJ Styles. I wasn't a huge TNA person, but AJ Styles was dude. So I'm they got
Styles is amazing.
Yeah, they got AJ Styles in there. They got Prince Devitt in there, Finn Balor for you WWF people, Finn Balor. They got Shinsuke Nakamura in there. So I'm like, yo, okay, I might actually get this one. And then, you know, my dumbass, I'm watching YouTube videos on it thinking that they're showing the PlayStation 3 version or both versions. Well, really, it's the PlayStation 4, but it's like people don't, whatever. So I'm thinking, oh, they really upgraded some stuff. They got some new stuff in here. Cool. And then I buy it, and I'm like, what the hell is this? What is this? So I'm going, I just can't. I just can't even. So it's like, no, I'm done with the 2K WWE games in toto. Like, until a new company picks them up and like actually brings back a story mode, please, I'm done. I'm done. 2K17 is it. 2K has lost me. Like,
yeah, and the thing is, like, I really do think the easy fix to that situation is like once the game, like pretty much once you have developed all that you're going to develop for that console, cut it off. Don't offer the game on that system anymore. Now, what not, and I don't know if they've been doing this with the WWE games, but I know for a while, for a very long time actually, even to this day, I think they still do it. Like EA was doing this with Madden, where you can download the new roster and just import it on the game that you already have. So I would say, like, stop spending all this money to go ahead and make this and to release the same fucking game on these old consoles with the new branding on it. Like, stop doing that shit, right? Of course, they're not going to do it because, well, I mean, think about it. Well, no, because they make money off of doing that. Yeah, it costs money, but they still making money doing it.
they can make the money off the DLCs. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like,
see, but that's
Go ahead.
But that's the cool thing about like Madden. Like with Madden, like you don't pay for the downloadable roster.
well,
You
no,
just
but I mean,
it's a free download to just update your roster.
no, and that's cool. But what I'm saying is, with the WWE games, they put out the showcase mode, and that was a DLC, and it's like, okay, people will pay for that. So it's like, all right, they have the star packs coming out, so WWE is capable of updating their roster and all that. But the kicker is that the data's already on the disc. It's just the DLC just downloads that to make it available to you on the disc. It doesn't add anything to the game. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't alter your saved files. It just adds that data. It just unlocks that data already on the disc. So if you're like a skilled hacker or something, you could just go in, hack the disc, take it out, and have everything unlocked without paying for it, because
you're lagging, Ugo.
it's all there.
Repeat that last part. You were lagging.
Yeah, either way, another dime from me. Yeah, I was lagging. But yeah, no, 2K can suck a dick.
All right. So okay, this one's gonna be interesting because prior to the live stream, Hikari was like, I don't know if I can rant, man. I don't think there's anything that I feel that passionate about to rant. But I get the feeling that there's an inner anger just boiling, bubbling under that surface. Come on, Hikari. Like,
nah, man. No, since I started taking my medication, I calmed down. No, that was a joke. There's nothing I feel that passionate about, but I will say this on Facebook. What's up with these social justice warriors?
Oh, dude.
Why do they have to fuck up everybody's enjoyment on Facebook? I mean, they're taking this shit way too far. Perfect example of this. It was about the beef between Remy Ma and Nicki Minaj, right? Remy Ma feels some type of way about Nicki Minaj. She put out this went. I mean, she went pretty damn hard on that. I'm not gonna lie. She basically bombed the shit out of Nicki Minaj on that. So everybody's on Facebook talking about this, and in the comment section on the Facebook post for the Sheether diss track says, stop coming at each other like this. Y'all don't even the anniversary of Trayvon Martin's death. And I'm like, what? What the fuck does Trayvon Martin's death have to do with a fucking rap beef?
Nobody even puts those two things together.
Except social justice warriors who want to be political activists on Facebook on some bullshit. Like, what? Where were you? Where was your political activism 4 years ago or 3 years ago? These are pop culture activists. They don't do this shit in real life. They're just bums who sit in the basement and talk shit about other people's political beliefs because it makes them feel morally and politically superior to other people, and they need to cut that shit out.
That's basically what it is.
I don't want to hear about what you think about Trayvon Martin. No, shut up. You're not a real political activist. You're somebody on Facebook. So when there's a beef between rappers, let it be a beef between rappers. Let's enjoy that beef between rappers. I don't need to hear about Black consciousness. I don't need to hear about Pan-Africanism. I don't need to hear about Afrocentrism. Shut up with all of that bullshit and let our beef be a rap beef. Damn.
Talk to him.
You know what I mean? Why it gotta be all this bullshit? You know what I mean? Why gotta be all this? Oh shit! You gotta share political stories. Now everyone wants to share political stories on Facebook. You really read the New York Times, nigga? You don't read the New York Times. You don't read the Washington Post. Stop it. Half this shit you don't even know about. And I can't stand these people who parrot political beliefs. Oh, my healthcare premium's going up. Nigga, your healthcare premium's not going up. When did you become an expert on healthcare? When did this happen? When did you become so invested in the political system that you think sharing stories on Facebook qualifies you as a political expert? You're not an expert on shit. You're a regular ass person trying to be a social justice warrior, and you need to stop it. Just stop it. I don't want to hear about that bullshit. If I want to learn about politics, I'll read the Washington Post myself. I don't need you to share stories like I'm ignorant, like I don't know how to read. I mean, these motherfuckers be sharing stories on Facebook from all these, and this is another thing, the fake news on Facebook.
Oh, dude, don't get me started.
This shit. Oh my gosh.
Dude,
first of all, you need to learn about what is a credible news source. Stop sharing these fake ass stories on Facebook from, I don't even know the websites, The Root. Who goes to The Root? Who reads that bullshit? Stop it.
Or The Verge.
Read credible news sources. Don't be clogging up my timeline with all of this bullshit, trying to act like you're a political activist when in real life you're not. Stop it.
Dude,
that's all.
No, real talk though. But like the fake news on Facebook, like, dude, that's something I've been like ranting about for a while now. Especially amongst my friends and some of my peers, because I'll be quick, dude. Like, I think I want to say it was about 3 years ago, 2.5 to 3 years ago, about 2014 or so. Like, I really started going ham on Facebook, and it's one of the reasons why, like, because I think starting with like 2015, I was like, you know what? I can't deal with Facebook no more. I can't deal with it. And I started dialing back, because here's the thing, dude. I don't know how many times I've seen somebody either post a status, or they want to go ahead and be so fucking quick to post an article, and then all I got to do is Google that shit. All I got to do is Google it. Done. Like, the whole fucking the whole article and the whole argument and everything you quote on. Dude, I remember, dude, I had somebody, dude, bear with me, y'all. I had somebody tell me about 2 months ago that Kurt Cobain died. And I went, Kurt Cobain's been dead. What are you talking about? And they were like, no. So, and then they were like, no. Kurt Cobain's or some shit like that. Like, it's a rapper. There's a rapper with a name that sounds like Kurt Cobain, right? They were like, oh no, this person died. I was like, who the fuck is this? So then I go and I look the person up.
Serious?
Yeah, no, yeah. It's like Kurt Cobain's is his name. It's like 2 words. It's his name or whatever. But I'm like, who the fuck? What rapper is going to name themselves after the fucking
a dead rock star?
Right? Yeah, like, and a tragic, depressing one too. We're not talking about homeboy, who just drunk himself to death because he partied like a rock star. No, homeboy was depressed. He was dealing with a whole bunch of issues and some really serious mental shit. Who the fuck gets their jollies off naming themselves after somebody like that? But that's another story. So then get this. So they tell me that this cat died, right? Why the fuck did I just hear a commercial on the radio the other day talk about he got a concert coming out? What the fuck? And guess what? It was because It was because somebody posted some shit on Facebook, and that person who told me that didn't give a fuck, didn't care to just Google it.
I know.
Dude, and I don't know, and look, at every dude, that's why now it's like every time anybody posts up an article or any shit like that, off top, I tell them 3 sources. What's your 3 sources? Who vetted this? Like, even if you bring me some shit from like CNN or Fox News or MSNBC or some shit, because they get it wrong too. They get it, the networks get it wrong too. So I'm like,
you know what I found?
What?
You know what I found with people, and this is particular to Americans and American political culture. Motherfuckers are really, really brash. They have no problem substituting their ignorance for real knowledge, and then making it seem like you're the dumb one.
Yeah, exactly.
Like this whole thing fascinates me when people think they know what they're talking about when they clearly have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. And this could be on anything from mathematics to science to anything. I had some motherfucker a couple of weeks ago post something about geoengineered snow. Apparently the snow has chemicals in it, and the pollution in the air is causing snow that doesn't melt, and when you put fire to it, it doesn't melt, and all this other bullshit. And I'm like, I Googled this shit in 2 seconds and found out geoengineered snow is nothing but a conspiracy theory. Chemtrails, conspiracy theory. What the fuck are these people talking about? And it's not just on Facebook, it's on YouTube too. You see people in the comment section of YouTube videos. So they'll be like, like experts talking about something in a YouTube video. And there'll be people in the comment section telling these experts that they don't really know what the fuck they're talking about. Like, I have people try to argue me down about basic mathematical principles in the comment section of YouTube videos. And I'm like, damn, bro, it's not the fact that you're stupid. It's the fact that you're stupid and you don't know it. That's the biggest problem that I have with these people.
Dude, you know what though? I like real shit, dude. As much as like that's been kind of like one of the banes of my existence for like the last few years, dude. You know when it really came to, actually, this is when it started. It started with this shit. And ever since then, I'm like, I can't deal with you motherfuckers. Let me tell you when it was. Coney 2012.
Oh, yes, Coney 2012.
Coney 2012 happened. Dude, oh my fucking God. I'm like,
these motherfuckers talking about Coney 2012 don't know if Africa is a continent or a country. Dude. What are you talking about? You don't know shit about Coney 2012, nigga. You don't know about Rwanda. You don't know about the Congo, nigga. What are you talking about?
Dude, all because this fake ass organization went and made this sob video on YouTube that fucking went viral and shit, and nobody cared to do a single fucking Google search to find out that the mother Joseph fucking Coney hadn't even been in that country for 2 years. The motherfucker had not been in that country since 2010.
What's wrong with these social justice?
Dude, and I remember I had motherfuckers show, there was people spray painting that shit on the fucking art building at my school, on my campus, my stomping ground. And I'm like, are you fucking serious?
Coney 2012. They don't know shit about the Rwandan genocide. What you know about the Rwandan genocide? Not a goddamn. You probably never heard of the Rwandan genocide.
Dude.
You probably thought that was some rock band. Get out of here.
So dude, like that's why, like, ever since then, I'm like whenever somebody come at me with some shit on the internet, I'm already like, where's your sources? You just got one? Oh, no, you better vet that shit. You better vet it. I need at least 3 reliable fucking sources. And like I said, dude, you ain't even look. That's why I said like people need to be a little bit more proactive in attaining information. Here's the thing, dude. I'm not going as far as to say like all news is bullshit, because it's not. And there are a lot of legitimate like news outlets that do the best job they can. But for the most part, any fucking news story, any type of article you see online can be vetted with a single Google search. You don't even have to go that deep All you have to do is just Google shit dude, I would even go as far as to say this practice. Google the shit and then just look at the first page of fucking results. And chances are, whatever you see most commonly repeated on that first page is what the real fucking information is. More often than not.
The problem is people can't tell a credible news source from a non-credible news source.
Right. They think just because it's in print, it must be true. And that's why that's one of the problems and one of the ways that we have gotten with the inception of the internet and whatnot, and blogging and all that type of stuff, we've sort of gotten away from traditional journalism.
Exactly. I was just about to say that. This generation has no idea what traditional journalism is. They can't tell the difference between the New York Times and some bullshit website. They can't tell the difference. That blows my mind that they can't tell the difference.
Now here's the thing though.
I saw some stat that half of millennials get their news from Facebook. This boggles my mind. When did Facebook become a credible news source? It was never a credible news source. It's just some assholes spreading information about things they think they know about, when in reality they have no idea what they're talking about.
Dude, and here's the thing too though. And this will be pretty much my final point on it. It's the whole thing about the difference between user-generated news and traditional journalism. Here's the thing. There are pros and cons of both, because let's be real about this. Easily 3/4 of the killings and stuff of young African-American males that we know about, 3/3, 75% of those suckers that we know about, we wouldn't know about them if it wasn't for people recording this shit on their phones. So let's go ahead and dispel this notion that user-generated news is not valuable. It is highly valuable, but the problem comes into play. People do not vet their own material. They don't vet their own material, and there's no one vetting it for them. And
the reason why they don't vet it is because they like news that conforms to their own political beliefs or their own predispositions. That's their problem.
And here's the other thing too, and let's be real about this, because traditional journalism has the same problem too, but it's really apparent. It's really apparent with user based journalism and with the internet in general. Clickbait. A lot of websites and a lot of bloggers and vloggers and things of that nature have no problem sharing misinformation, so long as it's controversial enough to get you to click on it. Why? Because they earn money from it. Now, like I said, traditional journalism and news outlets, they have the same thing too. Why? Because they have to sell advertising pages. They have to sell commercial airtime. So they have some of that stuff too, but it's never nearly as bad as it is as what you get, once again, when there is nobody mandating, nobody vetting, nobody editing the material that is being posted online.
Right.
But that we man, I really should have made that a discussion of the week, because there's a lot of avenues, there's a lot of ins and outs with that topic. But that's a really good rant, Hikari. See, I told you had it in you. I told you had it in you. All right. So off top, we done had video game rant, we done had a social political rant. So now somebody has to bring up the film stuff. So I guess I'm gonna have to bring up the film stuff. My rant is not nearly as deep as Hikari's, and I don't even think it's as passionate as Ugo's. My rant is simple, and this is pretty much it. February 21st, February 22nd, we pretty much got confirmation from Guillermo del Toro that he will not be making a Hellboy 3 film. This is the final say in the matter. If one ever does happen, he won't be at the helm. And pretty much what happened, because he shared this via Twitter, pretty much what happened was he met with Ron Perlman. He met with Mike Mignola, and all parties could not come to a decision on how to proceed with that project. So as it stands, it's dead in the water. It's not going to happen. That pisses me off. Very much so. And the reason for it is because, number one, I love Hellboy. Number two, I love Guillermo del Toro. Number three, I love the Hellboy films, and I love that film franchise. And Hellboy 3 has been teased for a very long time. Fans, like, we've been waiting for this movie for a long time. It's been 9 years since Hellboy 2: The Golden Army. Think about that. 9 years since that movie came out. All right. To be more accurate, 8.5, but close enough. And we were really hoping, because for the longest time, it seems like the problem was that, they couldn't get the funding for it. No studio would back it, because the Hellboy films, although they have turned profits, they've never done gangbusters. They're not a Marvel Studios film. Hell, they don't even perform to the extent of a DC film. Those films don't perform that well. They do turn profits, but when you're a studio exec, when you're an investor, once again, the golden rule of Hollywood is you want 3 times your budget in profit. Or no, 3 times your budget in earnings, at least double your budget in profit. That's the general rule of thumb. And none of those films have ever done that. Because the first Hellboy was made for like 66 mil and it brought in like 99. And then the second one was made for like 80 mil and it only doubled. It brought in like 160. So none of those films have ever done that well. And so it always was, well, we just can't get a studio to back it. We just can't. And now it's and Perlman's been wanting to do it. He's been doing a lot of like publicity and PR and things of that nature to try to get other parties involved, invested in it. It just never came about, and I'm pretty pissed off about it, and I'm pretty upset about it. And I don't know who to blame. I don't know if I should blame the studio execs. I don't know if I should blame any directors or writers. I will tell you this, though, and I hate to come at him like this, but I feel like I got to come at him like this. Guillermo, you my dog. You my boy. I love you like a brother from another mother. I love your work, man. You are one of, and I'm speaking to Guillermo right now. I don't know if he'll ever see this video, but if by some stroke of luck, he manages to see it. Guillermo, let me tell you something, man. You are one of the few directors in Hollywood that I would quintessentially say you are an artist first, okay? An artist and a creator first. But at the end of the day, man, like, stop plugging these projects that never get done. Just stop. Just stop. All right? I've been through this with Pacific Rim 2, 3, and the animated series. You ain't involved in that. We went through this with The Hobbit. You pulled out of that. We went through this with Justice League Dark. You pulled out of that. We went through this with Monster, the adaptation for HBO. You pulled out. Stop plugging your projects that aren't in production. Don't tell me shit until you in post. Please. Don't tell me shit until you in post, or at least until you got a script done, man. Like, dude, I remember, you know what this reminds me of, dude? I remember when, dude, for the longest time, like one of the reasons I am such a huge fan of the Creed film, the Rocky legacy film, Creed, right? I've been waiting for that movie for a long time because Stallone been talking about doing that film since like 2006. He's been talking about that a long time, right? Since pretty much since Stallone came back into the spotlight with the Expendables, he's been talking about, yeah, we're gonna do another Rocky. And I remember, yeah, it was 2006 because it was like a year or two before that Rambo reboot came, before that Rambo movie came out. But anyway. But like, what was it? Like 2013, 2014, when he posted on Twitter, like, the script done, then that's when I was like, all right, finally, we got this bitch rolling. Guillermo, as far as I'm concerned, until I don't want to see nothing from you but a script. Don't tell me nothing about anything you fucking working on until it's in post. Please. Because you're getting my hopes up. And then you bringing them motherfuckers crashing down like a meteor shower. I can't go through this, all right? I'm too young. I'm too pretty. I can't. My heart can't take it. Just stop, bro.
It's a yo-yo relationship.
It really is, man. It really is. And you know, and I was rooting so hard that they finally, and then you know what killed me? He shared like what the synopsis for the third movie would have been, and I'm like, oh no, stop. Just stop. Just fucking stop.
I'm surprised they can't get a Hellboy 3 done in the golden age of comic book movies. That's surprising.
But it's the golden age of superhero films, not necessarily comic book movies.
Well, Hellboy is a superhero. I mean, okay, he's an anti-hero, but
hang on though. But here's the thing though. You are right, because Golden Army came out the summer of 2008, before The Dark Knight. Golden Army came out in between Iron Man and Dark Knight, the two fucking movies that set this whole explosion of superhero films into the stratosphere.
I didn't even realize.
So yeah. So there has been no Hellboy property since the boom.
Damn.
None.
Wow, that's surprising.
Yeah, and it makes no sense, because now would be as good a time as any. But from what Guillermo kept talking about, he said no studio would want to back it. Now, here's the thing, though. Like I said, this is not at all any type of comment or criticism about Guillermo himself. But I would not be surprised if, like, within a year, we found out that a studio decided to go ahead and pick it up because they got another director. I would not be surprised by that. Or even Netflix, for that matter. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because here's the other thing too. So much as this is the superhero movie boom, here's the other thing though. We still have independent projects that are still in production. Walking Dead. They still trying to make that Crow film, the Crow reboot. There was another one. Dark Tower. Well, Dark Tower was a novel series first before it was a comic. But there's another one too. Oh, the Sandman movie that we're still trying to make. So like there are independent comic book properties that are being licensed for film. But like I said, I would not be surprised if like within 6 months to a year, we find out that a studio has optioned a Hellboy 3. They just didn't want Del Toro at the helm. Like I wouldn't be surprised.
How you want to do a Hellboy with no Del Toro though?
I mean, you just find another director. But the thing is, dude, it's like I said, it's a blessing and it's a curse, because like I said, Del Toro, like he is not a Hollywood guy. He's not a Hollywood director. He's an artistic director. And because he's an artistic director, he operates like an artist. Artists in big business, they don't go well together. They don't. Matter of fact, dude, Dave Chappelle said it best. He said, when artistic expression meets corporate interest, that's when your heart's going to get broken.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But anyway, that's my rant. I'm not getting a Hellboy 3, or at least not from Del Toro, and no time soon. It's bogus. It's bogus. So anyway, that's that's all I got. And let's see, looks like Ugo's still trying to get back into the live stream. So what do you think, Hikari? Should we just go ahead and move on to what do you think? You think we should move on to Advice Corner, or should we move on to that third segment? What you thinking?
Let's do the third segment,
so we can give Ugo time to come back.
Right.
All right. Cool deal.
He didn't see YuYu Hakusho anyway, so.
Right. All right. So pretty much. All right. So that's going to go ahead and that's going to wrap up our roundtable rants for this live stream. So now we're going to go ahead. We're going to go into our second segment. And instead of a discussion of the week for this week, what we decided to do for our second segment, for those of y'all who have been following my videos on YouTube, you all will know that prior to this live stream, my last upload was my favorite heroes for the YuYu Hakusho series. The reason why I've been holding off on favorite villains is because I'm like, when I talk about my favorite villain in YuYu Hakusho, I got to give my boy Hikari on it. Because
Yeah.
I know this is one of Hikari's all-time favorite anime villains. And so I'm like, dog, we gotta, you know, Wonder Twins activate on this shit. You know, it's like, hey man, we beast the Rurouni Kenshin anime favorites together. You know what I'm saying? It's like we gotta go in on this one. So yeah. So what we're gonna do for this second segment, we're gonna go ahead and take this time now to do our favorite villains video segment. And this is going to be, and I think Hikari, me and you are on the same page about who our favorite villain from the YuYu Hakusho series is, right?
You know, it's tough. It's really tough for me. I love Sensui, but I like Toguro too. But you know what? Now that I think about it, I'd probably say Sensui is my favorite. I'd probably say Sensui is my favorite. But but it's really close between him and Toguro.
Now, dude, now here's the thing though. I ain't much gonna lie, dude. At first I thought I had messed up because I'm like, wait a minute. For the longest time, my favorite villain was always Yomi. Even though, dude, I love Yomi. I love Yomi. I love him. But here's the thing though. Arguably, is Yomi even a villain? So that's why I'm like, I don't know. He's an antagonist, but I can't necessarily call him a villain. And then I had to think about it. I'm like, hey man, Sensui, not only, I mean, look, yeah, he's a YuYu Hakusho character, but we talk about one of my top 5 favorite villains in anime, period. So I'm like, wait, no. Then I gotta talk about Sensui if that's the case. So,
right.
So pretty much for those of you all, if you're joining us right now, or if you just haven't been in the know, we're going to be talking about none other than Shinobu Sensui for this favorite villains video. So how you want to do this, Hikari? Do you want to go like into a brief synopsis of who Sensui is, or do you just want to go into why he's like your favorite?
We could go into a brief synopsis.
Okay. Yeah. So, all right. So for those of you all who may be unfamiliar with the character of Shinobu Sensui, all right. And you know what? Now that I think about it, because I want to, at some point in time, I definitely think we should team up and do another video talking about Makoto Shishio in the Rurouni Kenshin series. But now that I think about it, Sensui and Shishio have some similarities. Specifically this: they both serve as the hero and the protagonist's predecessor.
Yep, I was just thinking that. Yep.
Turned villain, turned antagonist. So Shinobu Sensui, for those of y'all who are unfamiliar with YuYu Hakusho, the YuYu Hakusho anime, which YuYu Hakusho in short, it's a supernatural detective story about a kid named Yusuke Urameshi who is employed by Spirit World as a spirit detective, and throughout the series he solves several cases for Spirit World or Heaven. At the behest of their hierarchy, and his job is pretty much to apprehend demons, to protect humanity, and to pretty much save the world from destruction. Long story short of it. Well, where Shinobu Sensui fits into this story is that Sensui is Yusuke's predecessor. So he was the spirit detective before Yusuke, and he was a character who, long story short, he got corrupted. He got corrupted because he was exposed to misdeeds from humans that he was sworn to protect. And he saw the mistreatment and just the slaughter and the brutality, that these humans who prior to this incident, since we had a very black and white view of morality. And suddenly he has an experience where he sees humans who he thought was once good turn into the most savage things imaginable. And these acts were committed against demons who he had always perceived as bad. So suddenly his black and white ideology got reversed. And when that happened, several thousand shades of gray descended upon his mind, so much so that he has a psychological break and has to create 7 different personality in order to cope with the trauma that he was exposed to. And that trauma pretty much led him to relinquish his position as spirit detective, go on the lam, like he went into hiding for several years. And then finally, when he resurfaces in the third story arc of Yu Yu Hakusho, it is as the leader of a gang of individuals who are trying to open up a portal to demon world and pretty much flood the earth with demons,
yeah,
to wipe out humanity.
Jeez.
Yeah. So that's pretty much Sensui in a nutshell. So yeah, so just off top, Hikari, let's just give us one reason that makes Sensui one of your favorite villains.
Wow. Oh, geez, that's. I mean, I like him for so many different reasons. I think, man, it's tough. Even that simple question is tough. I'll say one of the reasons why I like him though was his. I don't know what to call it. I think of it as presence. One of the things about a villain is that they have to be a real threat to the protagonist, and that threat becomes the foundation for the conflict between the protagonist and the antagonist or villain. And Shinobu Sensui, much like Makoto Shishio, just had this presence where, okay, you don't want to fuck with this guy. When he first shows up, it's like, look, I'm more experienced than you, I'm smarter than you, I'm wiser than you, I know more than you do about fighting, and
he's bigger than he was.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
another thing that killed me about
I'm better than you. I know some things that you don't know about Koenma. I know how this world works. And it wasn't just his physical presence. It was his whole philosophy, right? Like, what's interesting about Shinobu Sensui, of course, there's the aspect of the physical conflict between him and Yusuke Urameshi. I mean, he's just better than Yusuke physically. I mean, he just whoops his ass on multiple occasions. But the thing about Sensui that I always found interesting was the way he causes us to question the morality of the story itself.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the things I always said was that the problem with Shinobu Sensui wasn't just his black and white thinking. It was that Koenma used him as a weapon and perpetuated his black and white thinking so that he could use him more easily as a weapon. And so the corruption of Shinobu Sensui was also, in a sense, linked to Koenma. And so when Shinobu Sensui shows up, he's not just physically a threat to Yusuke Urameshi. Philosophically, he's a threat to the foundation of the story, because up until this point, we think Koenma's the good guy. And then we realize that, in fact, nah, Koenma is morally ambiguous as well. So I would say one of the things I like most about Shinobu Sensui is the presence he brings, not just in the physical aspect, but in the philosophical sense as well, in terms of morality.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too, because like at the time, like I remember at the time when I was first introduced to Sensui, like I knew where they were going with that in terms of like what it meant for Sensui being a former spirit detective returning and sort of seeking vengeance on Spirit World, which for the record, it's not really vengeance. So far as Sensui is concerned, he's just putting the scales back in alignment. Right. Like there is no vengefulness. There is no
that's true.
There really is no ill intent. It's more so like he's just putting things he's just putting things back in order. But the I'm sorry, I got a call in I got a call in the middle of my thought, and it completely threw me off. But the thing is, it's like
he thinks he what's interesting is, like, you're right. Since we thinks, it's like he thinks he's bringing balance to the force.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But what's cool, but going back off of what you said, piggybacking off of what you said about like what it means, his presence in the story and how it threatens the philosophy of the story itself. Sensui makes his presence. I didn't think about this until much later when I started reading more material where this figure appears in certain stories. But think about this. Sensui makes us question Koenma and what he's doing enlisting these youths as his soldiers.
Right.
The same way that we should question Professor Xavier in X-Men, or the same way we should question Zordon in Power Rangers. Like, he forces us to question the moral attitude of the person responsible for sending young people off to war. And by extension of that, we can go ahead and start questioning presidents, generals.
That's a great point.
Monarchs.
You know, I never thought about that.
Yeah. So like that in and of itself, that's why, and remember, and keep this in mind too. The same thing happens in Rurouni Kenshin, to draw another parallel to Shishio. The same thing happens when Shishio appears, because Kenshin now has to question the very government that he fought for in that revolution, when they cast aside the person that he once was.
Right. You know, this is related to another point that I didn't think about until you just brought up this point. But one of the things that Shinobu Sensui represents is the chaos of violence.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the people who enlist these youths as soldiers think that in some sense they can contain the violence, that they have the arrogance to believe that they can direct essentially human weapons of war in ways that'll benefit them. And they always believe that as a result of this arrogance, that they can contain the chaos of violence. And one of the things I remember reading about in school, to link this to the real world, is the book Song of Solomon by Toni Morrison. And there's a character in the book who he's a black man who's suffered trauma and violence at the hands of white people. And so what he does is he creates this gang of individuals, and what they do is they go out and murder white people. And what that symbolizes is that it's very difficult to compartmentalize violence. I mean, by the end of the book, this black person is now not just violent against white people. He's violent against other black people who love him and who want to help him. And what this always represented to me was that it's very difficult to contain violence. Once humans get to the point where the only way they can resolve their differences is through violence, you should expect that anything is possible at this point. Because humans have not only do they have the arrogance to believe that they can contain violence when they really can't, but they always underestimate the extent that other people are willing to go to in order to enforce their beliefs or impose their beliefs on other people. And I don't think that when Koenma enlisted Shinobu Sensui that he realized or that he fully appreciated what would happen if that violence were to turn on him.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because I think Koenma even mentions in the series, he says, you know, like, Shinobu had a how does he put it? He was like, oh, he had a sort of like a solidarity of mind and a way like he had a focus and a sense of objectiveness that Koenma made a point to avoid with Yusuke, because he didn't want to employ somebody that had that those blinders like that, where, you know, like, this is my objective, this is my target, I have to see it out regardless, you know.
Right, he did. Right, he said I wanted I wanted you to be a little bit reckless,
right,
to have
exactly.
the ability to question me, to do things your own way.
Yeah, right. And the thing is, like, Koenma makes it seem like, oh, Yusuke is like natural rebelliousness is a virtue in that regard, when actuality it's like, no, you just trying to make sure Yusuke doesn't become another liability. That's what that is. You're trying to cover your own ass again. Because Yusuke's a knucklehead. You know, he doesn't have that killer instinct that, you know, that Sensui had. But, you know, another thing that I really dig about Sensui, so much so that it's one of the things I've always said that I love about a good villain, and all of my favorite villains have this ability. To some extent, they make me agree with them. And when it comes to Sensui, about his whole outlook on like humans and demons and what is evil and what is virtuous and what does that actually mean, Sensui is very much of the mindset of eye for an eye. Fair is fair.
Right.
It's like a human being. Like take Torukane in the series for an example. You know, a human being that is vile and that is ruthless and that is violent and heartless and all this type of thing is no better than an S-class demon. But by that same token, you can have an S-class demon like, say, Ryzen,
right,
who can be virtuous. You know what I mean? And Sensui was the first character in the series that actually made us look at both sides of that coin in that same way, because even with the characters that we had seen, Hiei throughout the whole series keeps trying to reinforce that he's as bad as Spirit World thinks he is. And on the flip side of that, Kurama is all about reform. His whole thing is, no, I'm not Yoko Kurama anymore. You know, I'm you know, this new Kurama sort of thing. But Sensui lays it all on the line, and it's a really interesting thing because it forces Yusuke to come to terms with that. Like, point blank, this is what it is, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. And he even puts the opportunity on the table where he tells Yusuke, like, you can partake in this, but I know you won't, because you're young, you're dumb, and you're out of control.
And you know, this now that you mention it, this comes together very nicely. This conflict between humans and demons comes together very nicely in Yusuke Urameshi himself, because he finds out that he's in fact a demon. I mean, he's a human, but he's also a demon. And so these two sides of the coin come together very nicely with Yusuke. And one of the things that's interesting is the transformation that happens in Yusuke as a result of Shinobu Sensui, because it's Yusuke who comes to Ryzen and say, look, like when Ryzen is starving himself, Yusuke comes to Ryzen and say, look, there's some really bad people, I mean, in the world. You can eat them. Why do you have to do it? You know, when you're the good one. And part of me thinks that that the impetus for that sort of thinking was probably Shinobu Sensui.
Yeah, definitely. And see, but the other thing too, and this will sort of be like my final note in terms of like his relationship with Yusuke specifically, but one of my favorite scenes, probably my favorite scene with Sensui, is when he's having that argument with Yusuke, and the whole time you know, they're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, where Sensui is just pretty much telling Yusuke, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it, this is how it is. But Yusuke, but every time Sensui is jabbing at Yusuke, talking about like, oh, this is what your actions mean. Do you realize what it is you're doing? What it is, you know, what it is you're fighting for, who it is you're protecting, da 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 da. And Yusuke is so quick to hit him with a rebuttal. And then finally, Sensui just tells him, you always think the ends justify the means. That one line right then and there is pretty much like, I love it so much because it's Sensui telling Yusuke straight up, you are not a kid anymore. Grow the fuck up. Accept responsibility for what you're doing. Either you are doing what you're doing for good or you're doing it for ill. But regardless of all of that, accept what it is. If it's a bad thing,
right,
accept it for what it is. If it's a good thing, accept it for what it is. But it was pretty much Sensui getting the message across to Yusuke, your hands are just as dirty as mine. You are a murderer. You have slain. Accept it.
Right.
By that definition, you are no better than I am. You seek the salvation of the world in your way, just like I seek it in mine. But under no circumstance do you have the right to chastise me for it. Like you're out of line.
And in that sense, the difference between Yusuke and Shinobu Sensui is a matter of degree, not kind.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right. And also in some sense a matter of scale as well. I don't think up until this point Yusuke really thought about his actions in that sense. Mostly because he just thought of his job as fighting. And what's interesting about this whole conflict between Sensui and Yusuke is this is a character in Yusuke done right. Who talks with his fists and not necessarily his mind or his mouth, right? You can have a character whose first impulse is to punch people in the face, and you can, that's all well and good. That's an archetype for a protagonist, but you can also complicate that archetype by at some point having them come to grips with what it means to punch people in the face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other thing too is Sensui is the first villain, I think, in the series where number one, Yusuke doesn't have a personal grudge against, okay? Because number one, he's not just another case like with Rando. And number two, he doesn't have a personal grudge against like he did with Toguro. Like with Toguro, it was personal.
Right.
But here's the other thing too, though. And consider this too. Sensui is still human. He's not a demon. Right. He's a human. He's a human. So there's that to take in consideration too, because up to this point, Yusuke has only either fought demons or he fought a human who became a demon. But he's never had to straight up just fight another human. He certainly never had to fight one of his own, which is what Sensui is. But yeah, it was. I think that for Yusuke, this was very much a situation where his fist was not going to solve the problem. It wasn't.
Right.
Because Sensui even tells him, that portal's too far gone. You can't close it. It's too late.
Right.
It's like even when Sensui engages in Yusuke, it's not to stop Yusuke, it's just to give them more time to make the portal even bigger than it already is. But they can't close that portal.
Right.
That damage is already done.
Right. And this adds another layer of complexity to it as well, because in the human world, the fight is on Yusuke's terms. But once the portal is open, and once Sensui kills Yusuke, and he goads Kuwabara and Karama and Hiei into Demon World, he's like, okay, now you fight on my terms. Now we get to see what all the fuss was about in Demon World. Now we get to see who are these people? Who are these, maybe not even people, who are these demons I was killing? What is this world really like? I want to see what this world is really about. So now you fight on my terms.
Yeah, and that's when we got
in human world, we fight on your terms. In spirit world, we fight on Kawima's terms. But in demon world, we fight on my terms.
Yeah, and that's when we got the episode upon episode upon episode of ridiculous spirit energy nonsense. Which that's the one I will say this, that's the one thing that annoyed the hell out of me with Sensui. Like when we did the sacred energy thing, there was pretty much no precedent set for that, and I felt like there were no rules set for that at all, because he was just doing whatever the hell he wanted just because he had sacred energy, and with the different armors and stuff like that. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Because even keep in mind what happened. Remember, Hiei and Kurama both jumped straight into A class after he killed Yusuke.
Right.
So there's only one class in between A and S, and that's super A class.
Right.
So yeah, they were pretty much like the strongest that they could be. Actually, remember, keep this in mind too. At that point, they were strong enough to where the Kakai barrier kept them at bay.
Right.
Like if that barrier would have been closed behind them, they would have never been able to return back to Earth.
Right.
That's how powerful they had gone. So and where'd my camera go? Okay, there I go. I think I'm freezing, lagging. But here's the thing though, like even with all of that sacred energy, he was still able to keep both of them and Kuwabara at bay. And then even when Yusuke showed up, he was still holding his own against Yusuke with his whole Mazaku powers and shit. So I'm like, yeah, that sacred energy was BS. I didn't really care for it that much, to be honest.
I never really thought about it that way. Mostly because, like I always say, any sort of conflict in a narrative is not about the physical conflict. It's about the under ideological conflict. And so that I was so like enraptured by that I didn't even think about what you just said. But I will say this though, another aspect of Sensui that I really liked in terms of his villainy was, and this is also an aspect that's in Rurouni Kenshin as well, is the authors are trying to come up with a realistic way to depict what violence and trauma would actually do to a person. Yeah. And we see that in terms of Sensui's like dissociative identity disorder, where he has to come up with 7 different personalities in order to deal with that trauma. And so for Sensui, it wasn't just it's one thing to have a belief and have that belief destroyed when you realize that what you believe might not actually be true or might not actually be right. But it's another thing to have the destruction of that belief linked to the destruction in some sense of your mind as well, because that's what Sensui went through. And I was always captivated by the psychological depiction of Sensui, because I had never really seen anything like that, except really in Kenshin from Rurouni Kenshin. He's the only one who actually has this thing where his psychological states are also manifestations of his morality as well. He's really the only other character that I've seen who have, like he literally becomes a different person. And when he psychologically becomes a different person, his morality changes as well. And so I was always captivated by this idea that your psychological transformation can produce an ethical transformation as well. That always interested me.
Oh, I mean, I had seen that before, even as a kid. I mean, Wolverine, dude, is very much
not quite, because Wolverine doesn't become a different person.
No. He just, well, okay, yes, he doesn't become a different person. He will just indulge in his inner animal. Because even like using Wolverine as an example, like there was I can't cite the comic exactly because I don't remember exactly what like issue number it was or whatever, but it was a story that actually got adapted into the pilot for Wolverine and the X-Men. Because I like the way they did it in that show, but I also remember reading the comic book where a similar situation happened where it's like Wolverine is pretty much being protected by this family, friends this little girl, and so his behavior, his mannerisms, and all that are very much contingent upon protecting this child and her parents. But when the authorities come looking for them and they actually physically harm that family, all bets off.
Right.
All bets off. It's like, I don't, that, and I think it was the first time I ever read his catchphrase, "I'm the best I am at what I do, and what I do isn't very nice," because he loses it and he murders everybody in that squad, in that platoon. Yeah. So, but he doesn't. It's not. Yeah. With Wolverine, it's more a practice of restraint than it is of actual like my morality will change.
Right.
But yeah, go ahead.
Because it's not as if what happened to Shinobu Sensui caused him to become more like his inner self. Right, with Logan, he has this feral animalistic quality, and so if he loses that restraint, he becomes more animalistic in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
But what Shinobu is, when Shinobu realizes that what he'd been led to believe was wrong, it's not like he became more like himself; he became less like himself. I mean, the transformation actually went in reverse,
mm-hmm.
which is and the same thing with Kenshin Himura. It's not like provoking Kenshin will cause him to become more gentle or more kind. Like, no, the transformation goes in reverse. And so the same thing happens with Shinobu Sensui. Like and not just like it goes in reverse, but it's also fragmented as well. Like he needs these extra personalities in order to cope with the trauma he went through.
Mm-hmm. Now, but what is more interesting, just using those two examples though, is consider this though. Remember who was the strongest personality of Sensui? It was Shinobu. His original personality was the strongest of the seven. Because that's the only one. That's the only one that could tap into the sacred energy. So consider that too.
He was physically the strongest, but even then, he wasn't psychologically the strongest.
No, he wasn't. No.
Yeah, Kazuya, I believe his name was the strongest psychologically. Like since we felt like psychologically threatened, like he just couldn't cope with it.
Right. So any final thoughts?
No, I think we pretty much covered it. That was a great discussion.
Yeah. So yeah, this is definitely like the most in-depth favorite hero, favorite villain I think I ever did video. But I would definitely recommend to anybody. So Ugo, I'm hoping you're still watching. If you haven't seen YuYu Hakusho, because what is it? It's 113 episodes. So I mean, it's my second favorite anime of all time. So of course, I highly recommend anybody watch it. But even if you don't watch the whole series, just Chapter Black itself is worth watching at least once. Because it's a very like fascinating story. Yeah, it really is. So that's pretty much going to go ahead and wrap up this special favorite villains video segment. I want to go ahead and take this time to thank all of you all who are watching live, all 75 of you all who are watching live. Thank you so much. And for anyone watching after the fact, by all means, thanks so much for watching. So with that being said, Hikari, we got one more segment. You ready for it?
Yes, the advice corner. Let's get it.
All right, so our final segment for the night, once again, as always, is our advice corner segment. So I want to go ahead and once again take this time to thank everybody who has submitted emails to me at otakuassemble@gmail.com, sending us all your advice corner topics, advice corner questions, things of that nature. Thanks so much. And for those of you all, if you have yet to do so, please feel free. Take this time. If you're watching it live, you can go ahead and well, actually, no. If you're watching live, I would prefer that you actually, at least jot down. If you got an advice, problem, question, anything like that you feel either myself, Hikari, or Ugo in next week's live stream could help out with, please at least jot it down and remember to email me afterwards. But definitely, if you are watching after the fact, please feel free, pause the vid and take this time now to shoot me an email at otakuassemble@gmail.com, letting us know whatever your advice corner topic is. Your advice corner topic, question, whatever whatever it is. And if it is within reason for us to be able to actually give advice on, by all means, we'll go ahead and we'll do it. So, and Ugo, unfortunately, he won't be able to join us for this segment. He is experiencing technical difficulties, so much so that he can't even connect to his internet connection.
What?
Yeah, like his signal, he just completely lost the signal. So, all right. So with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into this week's advice corner topic. And this week comes from Trent. Hello, Trent, and thanks once again for shooting us this email. So Trent writes, "Hey Larry, my name is Trent, and I have been a fan of your channel and vids for around a year and a half now. Thanks so much for that, Trent. Really appreciate all the support. I would appreciate it if you could discuss my question on your new OAW Late Nite series. You made an advice corner video a few years back called 'So You Want to Be a Mangaka?' My situation is very similar to the person who asked that question. I am a college sophomore in Ohio that is a health science major, except I'm not a comic book writer or anything similar, but I am still a performing artist, a dancer and aspiring choreographer, specifically hip hop. I don't know how much dance knowledge you have, but I will say it is similar to the comic book industry in the fact that it is very hard to get started in. Relocating to LA and all that stuff. I was wondering if you could give me some of the same advice, because I really love the advice you give and I feel that it could benefit me. Again, if you could take the time to answer this, it would be great. I would greatly appreciate it. Have a good one, Trent." All right. So pretty much what I'm taking from Trent's question, and I hope I'm getting this right, is I'm getting the sense that Trent, you're asking more along the lines of how do you balance both of these things, right? How do you balance school and how do you balance, wanting to, pursue this dream of like being a professional dancer or a professional choreographer? Now, my thing is this: I don't think those things are mutually exclusive, especially since you mentioned being a health science major. There are several ways in which knowing about the human body, knowing about physical fitness, kinesiology, all of those things can benefit a choreographer or a personal trainer or a coach or something like that. Which is why I don't think those things are both. I don't think those things are mutually exclusive. I think you can do both, and I think one does benefit the other. In many ways, it's a lot like how when I was in school, even though halfway through my college career, I decided that yes, I was going to go ahead and pursue writing professionally, and I started studying writing, but at the same time, I stayed an art major throughout the entirety of my college career, and it was because I understood that being a visual art student and being a comic book writer are not mutually exclusive, because comic books is still a sequential art form. It's still a visual art form. And yeah, even though I am primarily focused on the writing aspect of it, like I am still involved in the artistic process. When I did Totems, and Ugo will vouch for me on this one. So like when I did Totems back in 2012, right? Ugo served as, like, I was the writer, I was the creator and writer. Ugo served as the story editor, but I was still the artistic editor, meaning that I still approved every panel in that book that was drawn, every page layout, any and everything. Well, I mean, shit, I oversaw everything that happened with that book. But what I'm saying is, like, even to this day, as I'm, the graphic novel I'm working on now, like, I still intend to serve as an artistic editor on that, because I studied sequential art. Like, I know how paneling works. I know how, pacing and things of that nature. I know how layouts and all of that stuff works. And that's because I have an artistic background. Also, in many instances, like right here on YouTube, when I will do a review of a film or a TV show or something of that nature, it's like, sure, I can talk about it from a writing perspective because I've studied writing and I've studied screenwriting, but I will also talk about the visuals. Why? Because I've studied filmmaking to some degree, and I'm a visual artist, so I know how, I know what its effects are supposed to look like. I know how action scenes are supposed to be choreographed to some degree. Things like I can still chime in when I'm doing media critiques. So once again, another way, and if nothing else, like me and Hikari, we've talked about this several times before, but the whole fact that I can critique, that I actually have a formal education in the practice of critiquing, that all comes from my visual arts background. I didn't learn that from writing workshops in college. I didn't go to a seminar about, how do you review film? How do you become a film critic? I didn't go to a Roger Ebert talk or seminar or anything like that. No, like, what I know about the fundamentals of critiquing a work of art, it's all coming from my visual arts background. So in that same instance, like, you're a health science major. Now, I don't know what your concentration in that major is, but as I mentioned to you before, health science, physical science, not physical science, but health science, physical education, kinesiology, biology, all of these subtopics contribute a choreographer. Why? Because you have to know how the body works. If you're a choreographer and you're teaching a class of dancers, right? Or let's say you're the choreographer for like a music video or even a concert. Somebody falls out on stage, it does nothing but behoove you to know what's wrong with that person, to be able to go over there and be able to find out, when was the last time you ate? How much water have you had today? Okay, how much sugar have you had today? You're dehydrated. Like because once again, it's the same reason why so many coaches, they'll do one of two things when they are in school. They will either study some type of business management, or they're going to study kinesiology, because you need to know one of two things. You need to know how to manage people, or you need to know how to manage the human body. So being a health science major, like, maybe it could just be a question of retooling your concentration, like retooling your focus within that. But the idea of you staying in school to get your degree and then using that knowledge to help you in that other, I think it's totally possible. It's totally possible.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. The one thing I'm having a little bit of trouble with is I'm a little unsure about whether or not the questioner believes that being in school in the health sciences field conflicts with his desire to be a choreographer. I'm not sure if he believes that those two things conflict or not. And I guess how I would answer the question depends on whether or not he believes that there's an actual conflict. But given what you just said, I think that it's pretty clear that there is not a conflict. But the way I interpreted the question is should he do one or the other? Or does he believe that one somehow takes away from the other? And in this case, I think that his higher priority is to become a choreographer or a dancer. And personally, if it was me, I would probably not get a degree in health sciences. Unless you just want to use that health science degree to be a fallback position. Like if you don't become a choreographer or you don't become a dancer, you could use the health science degree as a way to basically still make a living. But what I would say is if you want to be a choreographer or a dancer, then you should be in choreography or dance school. Like you really, I mean, I guess there are some ways in which having a background in health science could enhance your capacity as a dancer or a choreographer. But I think the best way to become a dancer or a choreographer is to go to school to be a dancer or a choreographer.
You know what? Yeah, not now that you mention it, that might have been the crux because if memory serves, I think in that "So You Want to Be a Mangaka" video that I did way back when, I think that question was posed by somebody who they were studying one major in college and they wanted to know whether or not they should start studying art. But then again, with that being said, though, my advice remained the same. You should study the thing that benefits whatever it is you're trying to do. So yeah, if you have the option of studying dance in school, then that's what you should be studying.
Right.
So yeah, now that you bring that up, I think maybe that's what Trent was hinting at. Yeah.
And also another aspect of this is that dance and choreography is kind of not like other subjects. It's a performance art. Right? So you need to actually be doing it. You need to be performing. And that means that you probably should be involved in like maybe try to start a dance group or go in dance competitions but you should be actively involved in settings that are not academic because you need to practice the performance. It's like going to school to be a comedian. Like you can't really go to school to be a comedian. You actually have to go to comedy clubs and perform because being a comedian is being a stand-up comic is a performance art. So you have to perform it as a way of practicing and honing your skills. So if you want to be a dancer, then you gotta dance, right? I mean, you gotta do what you want to be. So in that sense, if you think there's a conflict between the two, then you should be pursuing dance as opposed to health sciences, or perhaps I don't know how your school is, but if you could, because some schools have like I know Rutgers, for example. Rutgers is not just one school. Rutgers has multiple sub schools. So, like, if you want to major in drama, you go to the drama school. You're still a part of Rutgers, but you're just in the Rutgers drama school. And yeah, you might take some classes in like your remedial classes in like math or English or science or whatever. Those are your general education requirements at Rutgers, the School of Arts and Sciences, but you would still be in like the drama school or the dance school or whatever. So if your school is set up like that, then you could probably be in like the dance school or the drama school and then maybe get a minor in health sciences, right? So like a minor in health sciences would still probably enhance your knowledge of dance in some pretty important ways. But I'm not sure if you need to major in health sciences. Again, like the major in health sciences seems to me to be only useful if you want to, make a living. If you can't make a living as a dancer, as a choreographer.
You know what though? Now that you say that, this brings me to I think like the main thing I think Trent needs to keep in mind, and probably something I don't know if he's thought about this, But he might want, if he hasn't, he might want to start thinking about this now. If you're trying to be a professional dancer or a professional choreographer, that needs to be your number one priority. You want to know why?
Right.
You can't do dance forever, but you can always go back to school and get a health science degree. But you won't, your body will not physically be able to allow you to dance forever. But you can always go back to school.
That's true too. Yeah, that's true too.
There is a biological ticking clock on what. Now, don't get me wrong. That's not to say that there aren't, older people who do dance. But here's the thing: you're never going to be as fast, as strong, as agile, and as sturdy. Keep that in mind too, because people get injured when they dance. That's a very demanding task. You're never going to be as formidable as a dancer. It works just like athletics. This is your prime. You say you're a sophomore in college. This is your prime. You will never be the type of dancer physically in your 30s that you would have been in your 20s. And the same thing goes. You will never be the same type of performer in your 40s that you would have been in your 30s. So yeah, there actually is a level of urgency that if you haven't been acting upon yet, you might want to, because especially since like if you're a sophomore in college, so what, you're about 19, maybe 20. Yeah, now's the time where you need to be molding your body to be able to perform at the level in which you need it to, just like athletes do. It's the reason why, and I mean, granted, yeah, there are business reasons why. Let's not focus about the business reasons of why the NFL does not take prospects straight out of high school anymore. They have, like, you have to go through that collegiate system. You have to go through the NCAA, and you have to get molded as a professional football player before you can get drafted into the NFL, unless you just pretty much get scouted and recruited from like the combine or something. But 9 times out of 10, that is your best bet. And the NBA is being more centered on this too, to where they really want these players to be able to train, develop, and compete at the collegiate level, because that whole process is preparing you to be able to do it at the professional level. That being said, if you are trying to do this professionally, now is the time to start doing it.
Right. And I would say if your school doesn't have something like dance, like a dance major or some kind of dance department, then you need to be going to a different school. Like you need to. That's another aspect of this is you need to be in a place that's catered to your needs. And if you're not dancing right now and you want to be a professional
Hang on, Hikari, we got some lag.
That's a significant problem. Be at a place where
there's some lag. I'm getting some lag from you. So yeah, go ahead.
No, I was saying.
Yeah, I'm getting that lag. I don't know where it's coming from.
Significant problem. You need to be at a place where you can dance if you want to be a professional dancer. So, and maybe that's not the school for you. With the place where you are right now, maybe that's not the school for you.
Yeah, and I will even say this too. Keep this in mind though. Even if, if your school doesn't offer a dance program, but there is a school that does, and you can get in, transfer, go to that school, get into that program. But I will also say this too, because see, dance is a performing art where there are private institutions for it. There are separate institutions outside of the collegiate environment that will allow you to be able to practice dance. There are schools there are studios. So let's say that you decide to stay at your school. Are you a member of one of those studios, one of those dance companies? Hell, maybe now you want to start, trying to find yourself an agent that will put you into one of those companies, or some type of manager or a coach. Do you have a coach? Dude. That's another thing too, dude. If you don't have a coach, you need to find a coach. That's probably the first thing you need to do is find a coach. And if you don't have a coach around you, you need to go where you can get a coach. And then you probably need to go wherever that coach is. But yeah, like you pretty much have to, number one, you have to make it a priority. And number two, you have to put yourself in an environment where you can work on that priority and do it effectively. You need the people and the resources around you in order to be able to actually pull off what it is you want to do. And if you don't have those resources where you are, you need to seek them out, because that's the only way you're gonna get them. Like if your school doesn't have a dance program and you're waiting for one of them to start one, good luck, because it might. Let me tell you something, dude. It takes a long time to get a program running at a university. A very long time. I have buddies, like I was in college for 5.5 years. I have buddies that I met my freshman semester, my very first semester of college, who wanted to study film. There was rumors of a film program at UL. They didn't get to see it. They graduated beforehand. There's a film program now, though. You see what I mean? That's just because that's how long it takes for like that red tape and all of that administrative stuff to get done.
Right. And there's two more things I want to say. The first is it also depends whether you're at a college or a university too, because a university has resources that a college would not have, especially in this regard. So you also need to think about that, and you also need to think about this from a monetary aspect as well. Like now, and you're going to school, you're paid to get a health science degree that is not your major priority. So it's not like you're wasting money, but you're not using the money you have as effectively as you could be.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, by no means am I, knocking the whole idea of, getting a degree to fall back on, or studying a field, studying in a field where it's a lot easier for you to be able to get a job, just because, the performing arts, it's a liberal art. It's something where the demand is not necessarily there. And because the demand is not necessarily there, there's only a finite number of positions and opportunities like that. And it's very competitive. Like, I get all of that, right? I get it. Here's the thing too, though. You're not going to have a shot in hell unless you make it a priority. That's the thing. Will Smith said it best. There's no reason to have a plan B because it distracts from plan A. You will spend a lot of time, money, and effort trying to secure your plan B, when all the while you are neglecting yourself, the time and the focus needed towards plan A. In one instance, you are, it's kind of like, you're trying to get a foot to stand on while you're cutting off the other toes from the other foot. 2 feet are always better to stand on than one. And building up one by sacrificing the other, you don't want to do that, especially when you don't need to. Once again, like I said, you can always go back in to get a degree, but you can't always go back to be a professional dancer or a choreographer. You just can't do it. You just can't. So with that being said, do you have anything else to add, Hikari?
No, I think we covered it all.
Yeah. So that's pretty much going to wrap up my thoughts on it. So once again, Trent, I want to thank you for sending us the topic. I hope we were able to give you some advice that you could use, or if nothing else, at least bring up some things for you to think about. And I hope we were able to, help you out with this one. And once again, for all of those watching, if you have, any type of problem, issue, dilemma, topic, anything that you think that within reason that we might be able to help you out with, by all means, please send that to me in a personal email at otakuassemble@gmail.com. Once again, that is OTAKUASSEMBLE@gmail.com. All right. So any final thoughts, final message, Hikari, before we wrap this one up?
No.
All right, so once again, I want to go ahead, thank everybody for tuning in for another live recording of OAW Late Night. Once again, we will be, I know we went ahead, we took a break last week, couldn't be avoided, busy schedules. And then, of course, the commander-in-chief fell under an illness this past weekend. So I was in no condition to be doing videos, but back at it. With another live stream. I also got some other videos I've been working on. Those will be out to you guys as soon as possible. So once again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Everybody watching live, everybody watching, after the fact. And once again, like I said, for Advice Corner, if you have any problems, issues, dilemmas you think we can help you out with, send those personal emails to otakuassemble@gmail.com. Also, discussion of the week. What happened to all my discussion of the week topic suggestions? I remember back in the gap where that video was so popular and so popular. Like I would get like some A class, I'm talking about A+ grade, topics in those in the comment sections on those videos. And I remember even when I was back then when I was doing the thumb up process, I'm talking about some of those votes would be going up into the 30s and the 40s, and they wouldn't be decided until like the day I got to do the vid. Yes, discussion of the week topics, please, by all means, go ahead, post those in the comments. But I will say this, wait until this live stream archives, because apparently YouTube does not save the comments from the live stream, from the live chat.
No.
It doesn't archive those comments. So if any of you all have some discussion of the week topics, wait until this live stream get archived, because I am leaving the live recordings on the channel now. Wait until this sucker gets archived, and then drop your topic right there. Drop it right there. So yeah, so we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna wrap this thing up. Once again, this has been Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief.
And this was your boy Uber Hikari, aka the Nerd Nigga.
And please make sure you join us next Saturday, 8:00 p.m. Central Standard Time for another live recording. And until next time, peace.
Peace.